Kester, how many hours on the computer today?
Same as always, at about 8.
Of video or just on computer?
Just on the computer. I just had probably 3 hours of video.
You said last, 2 weeks ago, it was all day on the video?
Yeah, I had a meeting.
Hey, Woo.
Nice ceiling fan, Woo.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Good to see you, Jay.
Hey, Chad, how are you? I've been trying to call you. You've been ignoring me.
I know. I saw a missed call. I had my mom at the doctor's, driving back and forth to Yankton. I should have called you while I was on the road to Yankton.
What's she lives in Yankton?
Yeah, she lives in Yankton, but she doctors up here, and I go get her and then take her home. And so
How old's your mom?
she's 74.
Oh, yeah. So what is this now? How do I get it, everybody?
Click on the view button, Jay Woo.
You, but
Gallery view.
I am shitty at this.
Should be lower left corner, I think. There's a video part there.
I asked my wife. Oh, I see. Hey, Bruce.
Hello, Bruce Mueller.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Is it snow a lot of way over your way?
Yeah, blizzard conditions all day, so I think that's past now.
Is the interstate closed?
I'm not sure. Kids didn't have school, no hockey. Couldn't leave the house really.
I was kind of wondering because my daughter Melissa and Chad and Alicia are over at Mayo and they want to come home tomorrow. And they'll be coming by your area there around noon, I suppose. And so I hope the roads are pretty good for them. They had a terrible time and a couple of weeks ago when they were in that blizzard, and man, they barely could get home then. So
Should be pretty nice tomorrow.
snow is gone by now.
Yep.
Hello, Jeff Veldkamp.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Good to see you guys. Bob
too.
Booth, where are you at anyway? Are you at a baseball stadium or what?
No, just dreaming of games coming up here, getting ready to enjoy some baseball here, hopefully in the next few weeks.
Bruce,
Hi,
what are
Ed.
you at?
Hi, Ed Kester.
Hey, Coach.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You get Brad Pohl's podcast,
Yeah,
do you? He's been putting quite a few out lately.
yeah. I listened to like 3 of them today. So I'm a little confused. The first one I listened to, I thought was outstanding. And I think it's his most recent release. It really was good. But I listened to an old one today on Pee Wee Reese and Jackie Robinson, which I thought was outstanding as well. So I don't know. I enjoy listening to his podcasts.
Yeah.
They're just 7 minutes and they just kind of hit you.
Yeah, they're just about the right length, to gets right to the point and everything too. So
What was
pretty-
today's podcast?
What's that?
What was today's podcast? Or the most recent?
Something about wisdom, wasn't it? Wisdom,
Oh,
and they had
was it, the song.
Sid,
Yeah.
what was the name of that song?
Tennessee Ernie Ford. 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt.
That's right. You want to sing the rest of it?
I owe my soul to the company store. I remember that.
There you got it, Jay. You got it figured out now.
Hey, Bruce,
Hi, Jay.
How you doing, Jay?
where are you at?
Me?
My bedroom.
No, Bruce. I know where you at, Coach.
You better know I am.
Southern Minnesota, Jay,
Where at? By
Fairmont.
oh, okay. Fairmont?
Yes.
Oh, you went back home.
Yep.
Oh, you still married to what's her name?
Loretta. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 3 kids, all 3 teenagers.
Oh,
Keep
say
us
hi
busy.
for me. I haven't seen her forever.
Will do.
Yeah.
Chad, you're taking good care of my dog. I can see that. Hi, Jared Oswald.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Are you out in Rapid City?
No, sir.
Where you at now?
I'm down in Florida.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Would you get on with Justin or what?
Say that again?
Isn't Justin down there?
No, Justin's in Rapid. He's
Okay, I got the confused. You guys, yeah, that's right. You're down there in warm weather country. I got the two of you reversed.
Yeah, no, that's all right. How's the weather up there today? I actually know. I kind of know. I heard it's not so comfortable.
Chad, do you have your earphones?
Yeah, I do have them for you.
I'm having a hard time hearing. Hello, Jeff Folkers.
Good evening, Coach. Good to see you.
I suppose you're going to tell
Everybody
us
else?
how nice and warm it is out there, right?
Yeah, beautiful day.
Thank you.
It's, I don't know, 40 degrees.
We're lucky to get above 0 next week here, so I think it's going to be down to about 6 above tonight.
Well, that's no fun. We did have snow all last week. Missed 2 days of school.
You did?
Yeah,
What'd you
they do a snow day.
What do you get? 1 inch of snow and all heck breaks loose, or what?
Pretty much. They don't know how to drive out here. No, there's probably like a foot up in the North Valley where I was at, where I live. I got like 2 inches, so I was good to go, but they cancel it. I don't know, they're scared.
Didn't you have enough days off with COVID out there that you had to take another snow day?
That's what I was saying. That's
I thought you were an administrator that had some clout.
well, you know what? The superintendent came by the school today. And
To see you?
well, yeah, she wanted to see the kids too, I guess. You know how they are.
Yeah.
But she's trying to not have any no more snow days, no more COVID. Let's just push on, she says. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But it's good.
How are you doing it, Jay? Are you able to hear now and everything?
Is that me?
Yeah. Can you hear all right? Okay, there you go. You can hear me now, can't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are we ready for the great Jeff Feldkamp to share some wisdom with us tonight?
I think so.
You want to introduce him, Chad? You know that guy.
Absolutely. So Jeff was a really integral part in keeping the Hinkle Row going, at least in my eyes. I really got to know him pretty well, traveling back and forth and hanging out in Sheridan, all the extra miles he drove and things he did to make that deal a really big deal and keep the tradition going. And even a time when we we moved over to Devil's Tower just because it was a little closer and everything. He was pretty integral in most of that stuff, and just a really solid guy. So I wanted him to come on and kind of talk a little bit about what he saw tradition wise, and probably, you know, just our relationships when we get together out there, and just share a little bit of that. So, you know, we're one team, and he's definitely part of the team. He kept it going, and I'm just going to kind of turn it over to Jeff.
I wanted to also remind Bob Booth, you got another Montana guy here, Jeff Feldkamp. Where were you raised in Montana, Jeff?
Well, I always say my address was Manhattan, but I tell people it was near Bozeman because nobody knows where Manhattan is.
Did you ever hear of him, Bob Booth?
I know Manhattan. I grew up in Bozeman. It's a totally different town nowadays.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for inviting me. I'm going to tell one quick story and then I'll introduce myself and kind of go into some thoughts I've had about this talk. So my first career out of college was in retail, and I was kind of a front-end manager for a store in Bozeman, and I'm wearing my Sioux Falls College sweatshirt at work, chatting with some of the cashiers up front, and this guy walks through the line checking out. And normally when you wear a shirt that has, you know, SF on it, they right away think San Francisco or South Florida or something else. And this guy goes, Sioux Falls College? And if my memory serves me right, that was Bob Booth. And I will never forget, just out of the blue, unless I have you mixed up with somebody else, but somebody from Sioux Falls College who played football. I always remembered it as you, Bob. So if it
Where
wasn't,
was that at, Jeff?
but I remember thinking, holy cow, somebody else knows where Sioux Falls College is.
Where were you working?
At that time, it was called Big R Ranch and Home Supply.
God, there's a chance I might have. I don't recall, but I'm old and can't remember much.
Well, it was a pretty quick exchange. So.
Kester wore 81. That's about the only thing I can remember.
Well, I'll give you a little background on who I am. So I grew up in Montana. I always say I grew up on a ranch. I could probably ride a horse before I could walk. Sioux Falls was the biggest city I remembered ever being in when I first drove on campus and into town. But I like to tell people I was part of a real sport. I ran cross country and track. But staring at a bunch of football players, I'll also remind you the only thing I knew how to do was either follow a line and run straight forward or stay between the lines and go in a circle. And the number one play in my playbook was get to the finish line before someone else. So we had to simplify things for us runners. We didn't have the intelligence to remember all the different plays that you football players had to remember. But yeah, I was a distance runner, probably because I had no quit in me and I didn't understand anything else and could just keep going. I used to say I'm a pretty good 800 half miler, but I really needed 2 more laps to wear everybody down. I didn't really have much for top speed. So coming out of high school, Rich Greeno had just kind of come on at Sioux Falls College. He'd retired from high school coaching and thought, I'm going to help out Sioux Falls College get going and build a program. And when I did my research on who he was, I thought this might be a good guy to come run for. So between him and Scott Kiefer, I don't know if you remember that name, 2 very fine gentlemen who had a massive impact in my life. I know you guys are here because of Bob, and I'm going to tell a quick story about Bob here eventually, but Rich Greeno and Scott Kiefer were the impact in my life. I tell people, second to my parents, it was my coaches in college that really kind of defined me as a man and as a person. So I get it and understand it. It may be a different sport, but I think there's a lot of crossover. So decided to come to Sioux Falls College. I thought I got to give this running thing a try. Had a lot of options and just didn't know where I would end up. And the story goes, I'm staring at a Sioux Falls College ink pen that a recruiter, admissions person had left with me. And I just thought, you know what? I think I remember saying it out loud in the middle of a class and kind of disrupted it, but I said, screw it, I got to give this a try. And have never once regretted that choice. Yeah, it was life-changing in so many ways. I don't even know where to start, but yeah, came to campus, a farm kid who wore cowboy boots onto campus and realized I can't run very fast in those. And so stuck them in the closet and didn't wear them much after that. But between the relationships, whether it be in the dorms or on the team, they were life-changing. They're those guys, especially on the team where you run all those miles together, that I tell people I could call any one of them today and say, hey, I need help. And they would drive across the country for me. It didn't matter what it needed. They would be there. So that camaraderie that you guys feel as a team, I get it. I understand that. It may be a little bit different. The other thing I like to tell about my college experiences, especially when it came to cross country, you know, I never knew that cross country was a team sport until I got to college. In high school, it was just about you go ran and hopefully you placed well. And if you had other runners that did well, you know, your team did well, but that's all it really meant to me. And when I got to college, I understood how even a sport like cross country could be a team sport, and how you worked together and encouraged each other, whether it be during race day or just in practice. And we kind of defined ourselves by a team. You know, we had a lot of individuals that did really well, but it really meant at the end of the day, how'd the team do? And that was something that I learned from my coaches and from my time at USF. And then even going beyond the track program, the impact that faculty had, and people like Bob. When so after I graduated, sorry, my story is going all over here, but after I graduated, I went back to Montana for a short time and managed retail stores and ended up in Washington State for a few years. But my career has been very divinely driven by random phone calls. I'm managing a store in Spokane, Washington, and kind of had a rough day. The company had wanted me to move again. I'd been moved a couple of times to different stores and was just struggling with where I was headed. And I get a random phone call from a fundraiser at USF, a guy I knew. We were at Sioux Falls College and USF at the same time. So I knew him pretty well. He had come to visit me. I always say I was on the other end of the fundraising call. They were soliciting me for a gift, and he had stopped to see me in Spokane when I was living there. And I must have, through that conversation, said, you've got an interesting job. That just kind of intrigued me, but never thought it'd be something I would do. And so USF had an opening and they called me and said, we think you might be a good fundraiser. And I remember laughing at them on the phone and going, that's the last thing I want to do. But I just had a really bad day and I'll listen to anything right now. And so then continued that conversation, flew out and interviewed. And I thought, you know what, I think I need to give this a try. In hindsight, I was really just using it as an excuse to get out of retail. Sioux Falls was a very safe place to land. We loved USF. My wife is from Alcester, so just south of Sioux Falls. And we thought, let's just move back to Sioux Falls and figure out what we want to do and where our careers are leading us. So we came back here, and somewhere along the line, I fell in love with the work that they call fundraising and development. It took me a lot of years in counseling to be able to say that I'm kind of a professional fundraiser and not cringe, because there's a lot of negative connotations that go along with that. But I always say, if you do it the right way, it's not that. So I ended up spending nearly 12 years at USF working there. And that's where I feel like I really got to know you, Bob. These guys are all on here because of you, and I can stand next to them and say, you're an amazing man, and I'm proud to know you. One of my favorite Bob Young stories is your retirement party. I will never, ever in my life forget that. I stood in that room, standing room only. There was not an open seat. watching you say a few words up front and thinking, I wonder if anybody would ever show up to my retirement party, let alone maybe my funeral. And it really kind of made me pause and think the impact you had on so many different people. It's very powerful. People flew from all over the country for your retirement party. And that was, I mean, I knew you as a person and was, I knew how good of a man you were, but to see that, it really hit me like a brick wall to see the impact that you had on so many lives. So then transitioning to kind of talk about the Roe Hinkle Award and the golf tournament and the efforts that went into that. I can just say pure joy from A to Z. One, what Roe Hinkle stood for, Dave Hinkle and Tony Roe. I've heard the story so many times. I feel like I know those two guys, and just the influence they had, the leadership qualities, very different ends of the spectrum, but leaders just the same. My favorite part of that whole thing, beyond being able to play in some amazing golf courses, was either the evening meal prior or the morning breakfast where we gave out the Roe Hinkle Award, and we had the recipients and their parents there, and hearing whether it be Troy Baker or Ed Kester or even Chad talking about who Dave and Tony were and what the leadership award meant. It was very powerful to hear that. And for me, not having known those two guys or been part of the football program, to sit back and go, it doesn't really matter which sport. USF really had an impact on so many of us. And yes, it's about Bob as a coach, but it's also about Rich Greeno as a coach, and it's about the faculty and the administration and just that whole organization and what it means to so many of us, that even how many years later we're connecting on a Zoom call because we're brothers in so many ways. So I got to watch you guys as you interacted at that golf tournament, and because of those two gentlemen and what they did and remembering them, it's pretty powerful. I can't say it's any different than what I have with some of my teammates. I've heard it on the USF football team many times. It's faith, family, football, and never having experienced that firsthand, I can still tell you I get it. I think at USF, it didn't really matter to a certain extent which team you were on. You felt that because there was an investment in you as a person, in you as a follower of Jesus Christ. And so many of us, I think, have a story that says we didn't really know who Christ was. We didn't know. I mean, we were screw-ups coming in. We had some athletic ability, but so many of us were lost. And I like to tell people, for me, I grew up in a Christian home. I went to a Christian's high school. So for me, my transition or transformation at USF may look a little different than those came in, with no faith or just floundering and not knowing where they were going. I had a strong base, but I was so narrow-minded. I grew up in a Christian Reformed denomination. The school I went to was Christian Reformed, and I thought everything that was true in the Bible had to do with that denomination. And I learned so many things. I learned that God loves you no matter what. It's not because of a certain denomination. It's not so many things that we put in as roadblocks, but USF just kind of opened my mind and surrounded me with just caring and kind people that helped me develop into the person I am. My coach used to always tell me, don't ever let your valleys get too low or your peaks too high. And when Coach Greeno would say that, he was speaking from a coaching standpoint and from a competitive standpoint, because as a runner, when you've got to cover a certain distance, if you get overly excited and go out too fast, you're in trouble. you've really got to be strategic, and you've got to keep kind of that even keel from an emotional standpoint. Otherwise, you'll really screw up your race. And there's so many ways where that is a powerful statement when it comes to life. Just kind of keep that even, steady keel. One of the greatest compliments I ever got when I was managing retail was an employee once told me, "We never really know whether you're mad or whether you're happy." And I said, "But you always know what to expect." And she goes, "Yep, we always know that. You're always just kind of even and steady." And I attribute so much of that to my coaches at USF. And so, yeah, it's just been a crazy ride since I left USF, between job changes to my time at USF, and seeing that in so many different ways, seeing the impact on the people that were employed there, to to students coming from all parts of the country. And just, I always say, you can't come to USF and not get a little God on you, because we all come at different levels and different backgrounds. And seeing parents show up at graduation and going, "Oh my goodness, I never thought my son or daughter would ever graduate, let alone all the other things that impacted them." I heard parents talk about, "Man, my son plays on the football program." They're hearing all these biblical teachings, and they're just getting all this spiritual influence, and the kids are going home and they're sharing it with mom and dad. And so it's not just the student sometimes that's getting the extended family as well. So, maybe I'll stop there and see if there's any comments, or, I guess any questions too. I'm still fairly connected at USF. I don't work there anymore, but I am chairing the Alumni Association, which I'm probably on too many boards at this point, but still a great place. And I bleed purple and think the world of that place. It really defined me as a person.
Ed Kessler, you're from Montana too, and you remember, you knew Dave Hinkle and Tony Rowe, those two guys, but spent a lot of time with Dave Hinkle. Have you been in any connection with his mom or anything lately?
I think the last contact I had with his mom, I have an album, a photo album that has all the backpacking trips that Dave and I took. Because when we took a backpacking trip, he always took photos, and then he'd go back home. We'd develop them, and he'd give me half the photos. He'd take the other half. We'd always get duplicates. And he put all the photos into a photo album, and then he made notes about every photo that he took. And I threw mine in a shoebox. And when I went up to his funeral in Alaska, they had his photo album out that had all our backpacking trips, which I think we did 4 backpacking trips over the years. And I asked his wife if I could take that album back with me and duplicate it and then ship it back to her. So I did that. And I actually, when I knew this was going on, I pulled it out tonight and I was looking through it. So the Roe Hinkle meant a lot to me because Dave and I were extremely close. Tony was a teammate. We weren't as close, but I don't know. I pulled that out this evening. I was looking through it. Tommy Rice holding a golden trout. He was the only one to catch a golden trout on a trip. It's like, that's crazy. But I don't know, that golf tournament meant a lot to me, and I think it did some good for the college. I think last I heard we had put like $80,000 into that fund. I don't know where that fund is now, but it's probably part of the foundation, and that's pretty good to help students in the future. And Jeff, really appreciate everything you did to keep carrying that forward, because you spent a lot of years carrying it forward, as did obviously Coach Young.
Jason,
Oh, that was
Jason, I was wondering, what, Chad Remington, can you add to that a little bit more? Maybe thoughts in terms of that golf tournament and I guess it's kind of the trips out there and everything too, right?
It was definitely the trips out there. And I just wanted to, before I forget it, tell Jeff that for me, I'm one of those guys that if you ever call me, I'll be there. You just mean a lot to me. I know you took on so much tradition and you kept it rolling. It just means the world to me. So the Hinkle Row, Ed called me probably 3 or 4 years in a row and rang my phone off the wall to get me to go to Hinkle Row. And I always found a reason not to. And I can't even put a finger on why. Why? I remember the night he called me and told me that David passed away. I could tell you exactly where I was sitting, exactly what the temperature was, what the smell was. It's just etched into my brain. And I remember, going to Tony's funeral. Two real powerful things, I guess, in my life, because even though, you defensive guys probably got to know Tony really well, but Tony to me was a guy who just kind of came in and laughed at some stuff, but he always would slap you on the back and ask you how you were doing and how things are going. He was just a true teammate. But the Hinkle Row deal, after the first time I went, I was hooked. It was one of the most fun, powerful weekends of my year. I looked forward to it. I helped in any way I could. People could ride with me. That there was nothing that was going to stop me. I mean, I remember Coach and Mickey riding with me, and we got to a big hailstorm. And had to drive under the underpass, but the hail just beat the tar out of my truck. And it was so loud we couldn't talk, but all we could do was laugh, because what are you going to do? And then we get to Rapid City, and there was talk of there being a flood through the golf course. So we got a hotel room and hung out and got to just pulled into Gillette when they called us and said the golf course is going to be closed and we weren't going to you're not going to be able to play. But we always got out there the night before, and then a bunch of us would meet over at AJ Nichols' house. And Tony would make sandwiches, and there'd be chips, and Chris and his daughters would have all this food, and we just all got together. And, the football stories grew kind of like Pinocchio's nose every year. More tackles, more injuries played with. More catches and more throws and more yards every year. Troy Baker would come over sometimes, and Tony and Greg Carroll, and Ed and AJ, of course. And I don't know, we always ended up watching basketball. There's always NBA on. It was just a really special get together. And when we got to the golf course, and like Jeff said, the giving away of the award was just, it brought tears to my eyes every single time. And like the last 3 times, Karen Hinkle came, and sometimes she'd just kind of poke her head in and start to leave, and Ed would run out and grab her. And Dave's dad never could come. It was still just so raw too, and all that just kind of tugged on my heart. That Dave's dad was still hurting that bad that many years later. But then we'd all get together and we'd start loading up our golf carts, and everyone was there, and the same groups, and Fred Preator and his stack team, and Ed, and I always played with Greg and Greg's dad and Tony Nichols. And as good of an athlete as Tony Nichols is, he's not the guy you want on a 2-man best ball or a 4-man best ball. He's not a very strong golfer. We just had fun, and it was all about the fun. It was all about catching up. And then we usually kind of powerhoused home. And that was another bonding deal, you know, especially since we all had cell phones. We'd load up about 7:30 at night and have a caravan, me, Ed, and Jed Stugart, and just a whole truckload. Going back, we'd drive all night. And I'd get home and get chewed out by my wife for driving by myself or however it went. But it was all the experience. It was the experience every year I look forward to the most, hands down. Just a time to get together and a time where you knew everybody out there had your back, no matter what. So I remember one time, one of the first times we played, Bruce Moeller flew in. They must have flew into Rapid. And I think I actually had my mom and dad and my wife with at the time, this time. And they stayed in a hotel and I stayed with Greg Carroll and we kind of did the thing. But my dad wanted to drive through Spearfish Canyon. So we took a little detour through Spearfish Canyon and stopped at this place where he caught an okay trout one day when we were on vacation. And pretty soon here comes a rental car up and it's Bruce Moeller and crew. I think HUD might have been with you. It was just, we'd had such a great time for 2 days, and then here you guys are. It was just kind of a blessing to see everyone one last time before you flew out. So
You remember that, Bruce Mueller?
Yes, I do. I can still remember exactly where it was too.
yeah.
Bobby Booth, you played with Tony Rowe, right? You were on defense with him?
Yes, I was. He was definitely a quiet leader. I think that's one of the qualities I think about Dave and Tony. One of the similarities I think is they led by example and by work ethic, but they were still drastically different people, even though their leadership styles I think were somewhat similar. Tony was just, from my recollection of Tony, just one of the happiest go lucky guys there was. Just always, I remember, just very, very talented athlete and just kind of not really a screwball, but just, he was out there having fun. He played football because he loved the game of football, and, he played it and had fun and almost made it look easy, almost too easy for, just, I still remember, every now and then I'll throw a highlight film on or something and just look at, the way he approached a game and not a real loud personality, but you could tell he was out there having fun. And, I wasn't able to attend his funeral. I did make it to Dave's. That was a really a special event to go to, and participate in. And, obviously, you think about, some of the things, where would they be today? What would they be doing? What would their contributions be? But, the fact that they were taken away so young, maybe that's what their contribution was just, giving us an example of how to live, especially Dave. Just living everything to the fullest and hearing the stories about his trips and his expeditions and things. In his short life, he saw more than 99% of us will ever see in our lives. So you kind of take those things and look at those and kind of see what they contributed. And so yeah, it sucks that they're gone, but I think that, the fact that we're still talking about them today, all these years later, is a testament to the impact they made on all our lives.
Well, Tony Rowe came from the high school where I coached in Arizona. I left down there in 80. My last year was 81, I guess it was. And then I came up here in 83, and it was really my assistant coach that took over the program that got Tony and I can't think of his buddy that came up here together. He only lasted about a semester, but Tony stuck
Andre
it out.
Viverette.
That's right, Andre Viverette. That's right. You remember. But anyway, the thing I can kind of remember, I remember that one Sunday morning, Jeff Nelson called me early on Sunday morning and said, "You can't believe it, but Tony Rowe got shot down on Phillips Avenue downtown in Sioux Falls." And I just couldn't, it just didn't seem possible that somebody like Tony would get somebody that upset that they would pull a gun on him and shoot him in the head, you know. And I just, he loved to go downtown, and there was just that one place that he could play his music down there, and just happened to run into the wrong gang down there. But anyway, it's just, I remember very distinctly that Sunday morning. I just, you know, I guess so many ways I'd kind of developed a special relationship with him after he graduated too. I'd have him come back and talk to the team, and he just always would refer to, or always talk about, how have a lot of fun, but stay focused. That was kind of the message that he always would give to the team, when he talked to him after he graduated. And anyway, working with IBM, he ended up, my wife ended up seeing him over at the hospital because he would come in there and do stuff with the computers. And she was so impressed with his knowledge of the technology of computers at that time. But I think what was unique was the fact that his son came to USF, and he was going to play. He played football, I think, for 3 years, but then he eventually went the music route and became the outstanding vocal musician at USF his senior year, which is really a strong statement. And the last time I saw his mom and Tony's daughter, I don't think, do you remember what his son's first name was? I can't think of it. Tony's son's name.
Can't, and he played on my golf, when they won that, or gave him the award, we gave away the award the one time he was out there. He was in my foursome.
I think it was Garrett.
Garrett, that's right, Garrett Rowe. But anyway, I took his mom and his sister, and there was one other friend, I guess it was, that came with him, and we went out to the stadium and just took a bunch of pictures out there, and it was a very special reunion time. And Garrett, I don't think he was with us, if I remember right. It was just his mom and his sister, and they were just really, it was just a fun time, let's put it that way, as far as a reunion is concerned. But that was the last time. And his wife's parents live out west of Sioux Falls off of 41st, way out by Wild Water West, in that area. And I've kept in touch with them fairly well over the years and gotten cards from them and everything. And so those two guys, between Tony and Dave, left a great impact on a lot of lives, even though they're not here with us. And I think that Roe Hinkle Award really made an impact on those who received it over the years. And I think when they look at their little plaques that we gave them, and they remember that it was something special because it was based on some great characteristics that we saw in those recipients that time. So anyway, thanks, Jeff, and I appreciate your comments and everything, and Ed, and I don't know, Jay Sim, do you remember Tony Rowe?
I remember he had a big eyes and a beautiful smile. Yeah, kind of quiet to me because but yeah, I can still see him and vision him would look like.
I think those two guys had the type of character where today we're still talking about them, because we don't, for me personally, I still don't want to let them down. they were just icons to me to look up to. Like Jeff said, I kind of came in wild. I'd grown up in the church. We went to church 5 days a week, and really into my youth group. And then all of a sudden you get away from home and you don't have anybody to wash your clothes or to feed you and do all that stuff. And I think you're kind of lost for a couple of years. But those two guys were the guys that came in, like Ed always said, with maturity. And so we could look up to those guys. So today, I mean, I still don't want to let them down. Just, I don't want to let any of you guys down either. So I think that's what that award stood for. And I think what those two guys are still to me.
Jeff Folkers, was Tony gone when you came?
Actually, I was blessed to play 4 years with Tony.
Oh, were you really?
He was the same age, and Dave was a year older. Tony played DB. Of course, I was on the defensive line, so I just remember Tony just being smooth. That's all you could say is smooth. The way he ran, the way he played, it was just smooth. And he'd come in the huddle and call something. I don't know what those DBs were talking about. And then he'd run out, giggling and laughing, but he was just smooth. Dave Hinkle, I was an RA with him for 1 year when he was a senior, I was a junior. I just remember Dave and Ed after practice, always throwing passes, catching balls. This is, 20, 30 minutes after practice was over and working on that. So I know the work ethic that Dave had, and of course Ed had. I thought that was just amazing to watch that. The funny thing about Dave is that he and I were RAs together, and one night I can't recall, we went sledding, and just a bunch of people went from Burgess, and it was of course all the big guys and little guys, and we had put together like 6, I don't know if you were there, Remy, we put together like 6 or 7 tubes, and all the big fat guys, me and Duncan and Tommy Rice, and all, we laid on the bottom, and then there was another layer on top of that, and there was a layer on top of that, and we went flying down that hill, and we hit snow, and so everybody just flew over and tumbled over, and we all got up laughing, except me and Dave. I don't know if it's because I was on the bottom and he was on the way top, but both of us, I thought that I cracked my sternum. Dave thought he broke his back. And that night, we had to go to a RA retreat. And I can't remember where we went, but it was spending the night with Steve Young. He was the leader at that time. And Dave and I had to sleep in the same bed together. And I would turn and he would scream, and he would turn and I don't move, quit moving. But it was just the worst RA experience of our life. But I'll never forget that time that Dave and I we were both in agony and pain. I actually went to the doctor the next day just to check to see if my sternum was broken. But, I think about both of them. I had the opportunity. I was blessed to play with both of them. And that was just that, I wish I could have made it out. It just seemed like it was again, like Remy said, it's an excuse after the other, but it was always the wrong time. School didn't get out till June, whatever. I can't remember when the tournament was. I don't know if it was in May or beginning of June. And I look at that now and think, man, I'd sure like I'd go now, So, yeah. So I got to play with him 4 years and 3 years.
Thanks, Jeff. I didn't realize that. I was thinking that Tony was there before you for a couple of years or something.
You sent me to, I don't know why me, because I did it like 3 times for you. I went and picked up Keith Winderoth one time from the airport down in, I think, Sioux City. And I had to pick up Tony Rowe one time. He flew in from Phoenix. I can't remember if it was a Christmas time or whatever. I went and picked him up in again, I think it was Sioux City or something. I don't know, Omaha. But I drove down there and did that. Yeah, they were great friends.
Sid, are you on with us? Mr. Kortemeyer.
Yeah. Hi, Bob.
You have a few memories of those two guys and the Wyoming golf tournament, don't you?
Yeah. You know, I just would echo what people have said about Dave and Tony and their specialness as human beings. You know, Tony was such an, intelligent, articulate person. And he was one of the players that I recall that watched film so faithfully, down in those little locker rooms we had. And I remember Dave and Ed but yeah, they were just such fine people. And I went to Wyoming a couple of times. The golf professionals at the powder home kept encouraging me not to come back. They didn't think they could find another team that I would play with me another year, but yeah, it was those were some grand times. And I think that as Chad said, the way you all live your lives honor their memory and brings honor to them. So anyway, thanks, Jeff, for a great job tonight. I appreciate your time and what you've done for USF.
I remember starting that golf tournament out there with Troy Baker and myself. The way it kind of started was I would go out there to the All-Star game, which was played, Jeff, you probably kind of remember that. It was played down in Laramie, wasn't it? And I would come out there because I had quite a number of recruits from Wyoming, and that was usually on the Saturday after the golf tournament, early in June there, or sometime like the first or second weekend in June. And so we decided to go ahead and kind of get that golf tournament started with former players from Wyoming. And I can remember before they built the clubhouse out there, they were in a double wide trailer up at the top of the hill there. And
yeah, that was a big change from those two clubhouses.
Do you remember that double wide, Jeff?
I do.
But it still was kind of memorable. It got to be a point where we'd have about 9 or 10 foursomes, and I don't know if we ever got much more than about 14 foursomes, but it was still a very special time, And we didn't start the Roe Hinkle right away, though, did we, Ed Kester? I can't remember. What year did we start the Roe Hinkle Award? Do you remember?
I wasn't involved the first year. You told me about getting some Wyoming guys together. And that's kind of when I think that's when Dave was killed in Alaska, in between the first time you did it. And then that's when you and I started talking about, let's see what we could do with this and make it a Wyoming deal. And then we started it the next year. So I think maybe the second year I got involved.
I remember we started out by just giving out one award. We didn't have enough funding and then eventually the funds grew and we were able to give a defensive and an offensive player. And I think that's where it really took off at that point, to honor those two players. So.
Yeah, and it was really nice to have it go from you to DeBoer and Morrell. Got to know those guys real well during that time, and then passed off to Coach Stugart. Got to know Coach Stugart really well. And a neat thing for me was I started taking my son Jack out there, and he golfed in it about 4 or 5 times. So.
Well, it's been a good memory time there. Jared Oswald, you're way too young for any of these, right?
I'm just learning a lot tonight, Coach. I'm learning a lot tonight.
Did any of your family ever get that award? Do you remember? I can't remember.
No, sir. No, none of that. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. I don't think.
We missed the boat completely on you guys, huh?
Yeah,
Anytime you get 3 from a family, well, that deserves a special award. So
right. Yeah, we've been called special for other reasons, probably. But oh, Jeff Velkamp, I heard you mention Scott Kiefer. Do you know where he's at these days?
I think they're still in, gosh, I want to say Pennsylvania. Maybe it's not Pennsylvania, but
They're still at Messiah College.
yeah. I don't remember where that's at, but
That's where they went when they left, right? Is that right?
Messiah College is in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They've been there for 22 years.
Yeah.
And Scott's head of the ex-phys department, and Chris is essentially second in command. You know, she's a provost position.
Yeah, they were such good people. I had the same experience with them, Jeff. They were just great people.
kind of a quick side note, I alluded to it, but probably, Chad would say you get a little emotional when the awards were given out, and I would say I was sitting right next to you, probably tearing up also when you'd see. I think that award was probably more important than some of the other scholarships and awards they got when they heard the story about Tony Rowe and Dave Hinkle, and then having the parents sit right there, and we all know that parents have a huge impact, and that's a special award. There's a reason why I had no issue putting in time and effort to keep that thing going.
Anybody else got something to say? JSM, you look pretty relaxed tonight.
Yes, sir, I am. Is that golf tournament still going on?
No.
Or it's been done?
Yeah, when Homer Scott, I think he ended up selling the golf. Didn't he end up selling the golf course? I think, or turned it over to a management team to make it profitable or something like that. And
was that a Powderhorn?
At Powderhorn, yeah. And we were able to, for quite a few years, get a special price out there, but toward the end, it was going to get so costly that it was not going to be feasible to put it there. So we did move it over to the what do you call that course over there by Devil's Tower?
Yep, Devil's Tower Country.
It is called Devil's Tower, right?
Yep.
But and that was good.
Well, that Potter, I was there about a month ago. Man, is that beautiful. It's just humongous clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got some, I know they had some nice cabins we stayed in out there too. Then it was pretty nice there, even though I can't remember what the final, they were going to charge us how much per person to play out there, and with that new management team, and it was after I retired, I know that, and that's where Chuck and one thing about Chuck Burrell, I remember him getting you remember him emotionally when he got up there and was talking about the award and so forth, and he was just got all tears. I think we gave him the award, didn't we, one year too, I think, and he was really, that was a very special time for him. I know that, and he talked about that's the most emotional I had ever seen him. I don't know that he teared up, but it was close to it. What else anybody got to say? It's 9:00.
Well, it was a small.
I was only able to make the tournament, I think, 1 year, but I do have this picture. It's not coming through real well, but that's out in front of that double wide that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to see who we got in there. There's Troy Baker, there's Perringer, there's Kester, there's Dufik, there's me and Beavers and Moeller. There's a couple people I can't identify. But man, we looked good back then. Kester. Bruce, you look really good. Those were some good times.
Yeah, I took some pictures. I think I got them stashed away downstairs. I'll have to dig them out and take another look at them. There was a pretty good group. I know one year that we must have had, if you put about 9 foursomes together, there had to be at least 36 to 40 of us, I think. Something like that, I believe, in front of that.
Jeff, is that you in this? I'm trying to get it to where you can see it.
Turn off your background and you'll be able to see it.
Okay, hold on. No, how do I turn it off here?
Yeah, Coach, I think the most we ever got was, I think one year we got 14 teams.
Yeah. Was that at the new place though, or not? Was that at the new?
No, I think that was in early before.
No, I don't think that's me.
Okay. But I don't know who, I can't remember who this is here next to Bruce, between Bruce and Aaron.
Doesn't that look like Ron Hayes?
Yeah,
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is, isn't it?
Okay, and then who is that on the end in the red? I can't remember his name.
Is that Corton?
Yes, that's who it is.
Huh?
Chris Corton.
Good call, Woo.
He's down in Texas, I think. I haven't seen him. Yeah, I've been out to Sheridan in 20-some years. Man, that place really changed. Wyoming's beautiful.
What do you have for family out there? I can't remember, Jay.
I have my aunts and I have quite a bit of relatives out there. I just never been out there for so long since I moved mom and dad out here, you know.
Yeah.
Then I got some bunch of coaches and friends. In fact, a couple of them are pretty high members at the Potter home. They've been always asking to do stuff. So I just never been out until about 2 weeks ago. But they sure enjoyed it, you know. There's a lot of houses and it's getting really big. So, and I don't know why I would never went to that Henko and Rose golf tournament. I don't know what, yeah. I meant to go every summer, but I don't know what happened.
Did you play for Bruce Keith, Jay?
Yes. Yeah.
He was a good guy. I followed him down, and he ended up leaving Wyoming for a little while and going down to Colorado, and then he came back to Casper and coached there for a while. But
yeah,
you guys, didn't you win the state championship out there when you were playing?
Yeah, first time in 50 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, back in 1983, 82. Now they have like phenomenal. I mean, they won like 50. I mean, they have so many state championships now in Sheridan.
You mean Natrona County?
They're terrible. You know, anybody at Folkers went there, you know.
That's right.
Hey, you talked to that kid from Gillette, that defensive tackle.
Are you thinking of Scott Schofield?
Yeah.
You know what? After he left, I have no idea where he went.
Yeah, I haven't heard, or I sure like to see him, but I don't even know where he is.
Yeah, he left and that was that. He was a good friend.
Yeah, he was there, what, 2 years, Jeff? Then he left, quit or something.
Hey, Woo, I got a name for you. I'm curious, probably on this call, probably Coach or yourself would be the only two, but Herb Davis.
Yes, he lives in Chicago.
Okay, because I was almost going to go to Chicago for the weekend and take my son to go look at a school, we ended up not going. But what have you talked to him at all lately?
No, I have not. But you know who talks to him a lot is Sean Bergen.
That's what I was thinking. He would probably be. Coach, have you heard from? You remember Herb Davis?
I do, but I haven't heard from him for a long time.
Was he still in Chicago, Lou?
Yeah, and in fact, Sean Bergen talks to him. You know, they are keeping touch, and he says so much thing about yeah. You know what, hey, Chad? You know, sometimes you and I need to get together and get a hold of some of these guys. They probably really enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
You know what I mean? And I got a bunch of list of the people that you know, like every age, you know, Coach Young, and I've been there since '83 with Coach Young, so we kind of know everybody. But like, I get lose what year you guys played or whatever it is, but I should like to talk to you and get something, you know, just everybody be on at the same time, and a lot of people don't know about it, so you know.
Yeah, for sure. I played with Sean and Herb, and BJ. I remember my freshman year, he just kind of meander around and he's playing tackle and, you know, moving a little slow. And then coach would say, whoever wins this next sprint gets to go in. And he would take off like you shot him out of a gun. He'd run straight into Pierce Gym, didn't even slow down.
Didn't he transfer in from Yankton College?
Yeah, and Crozier that retired from Cobb, the punter, tight end. Do you remember them, Coach?
Who's that?
Brian.
Jim. Who?
Oh,
Brian. Yeah.
Hey, Bob, I had I took Herb out to dinner in the early '90s in Chicago.
You knew Herb?
Well, I mean, this was like 1992 or '93.
Holy
I
cow!
was in Chicago and I called him and we went to dinner and he was newly engaged.
I would love to get his contact info. Him and I roomed for a year. We had a house together, and I would love to catch up with him. We used to do Christmas letters, but I don't have any contact info. So if anybody has that, that's one I'd love to get in touch
I bet
with.
you, yeah, Bergs has it. And man, yeah, you ain't kidding. I'd love to talk to Herb again.
Yeah, Bergen. In fact, he and I were talking about Herb not too long ago. But you know, Sean Bergen's coach at USF.
Yeah.
Girls team, right?
Assistant for the girls.
Yeah, he really enjoys that too. So
I'll remember. I'll send him a text or email tomorrow, and I'll try to find out what the contact information is.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, Coach.
We should get old Sean. We should get Sean Bergen on sometime.
Oh, he would love to do that too. You know,
Yeah.
like I said. So I think, Chad, I'd take you out for lunch or something, and we'll just get together and kind of get some names of some of his guys. You know,
Will, you take someone to lunch, that's implying that you're a buy.
Yeah, I buy. I'm nice. You know, I used to be mean, but I'm not nice or not because I'm catching up to Coach Young.
I'm happy to buy you lunch, Boo.
No, but yeah, let's do that, Chad.
Okay.
Huh?
Yep. I'm in.
Okay.
Coach Tarski, what's going on? You hopped on a little late. Oh.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Coach.
Tarski, unmute you.
There we go.
Okay.
I've been playing with too many buttons here. Let's see, where else am I?
Hey, how you been? I haven't seen you forever.
Hey, where were you the last time we did this? I was there.
I did not. You know what? I am trying to figure this thing out. If Chad Remington don't help me, I wouldn't even know how to turn it on, or my wife.
Yeah, we're all dependent on Chad.
Huh?
We're all dependent on Chad.
You know, we rely on typewriters back in those days.
Yeah.
When we went to
Amen.
school.
Typewriters and ink erasers.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff Valkamp, thank you for coming on tonight and sharing with us. Really appreciated that. And do you get back to Montana much?
Thanks, Bob. My pleasure. And no, not as much as I'd like. Once a year tops. And sometimes I even miss that.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
good.
Bozeman's definitely changed over the years.
Yeah, Bozeman isn't the same town I grew up in, that's for sure.
No.
I picked a buddy up at the airport fishing last year. There's a parking garage, like 3 or 4 stories for parking for the Bozeman airport. It was,
So-
I was blown away.
My memory of the Bozeman airport is you could actually park in front of the airport, go in and wait, have lunch, wait for somebody to come in and come back out and your car would still be there.
It's a beautiful airport now. I mean,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
it's unbelievable.
It even has its own exit off the interstate. I haven't been out to it, but I saw the exit driving by there.
Yeah, I haven't been back to Bozeman too much. We went back a couple summers ago on our way to Jackson or to Cody, Wyoming, but it was kind of a quick trip, but it's definitely changed. I mean, unfortunately, either I really am that old or it's changed that much to where I can say, I remember when I was a kid, we used to ride motorcycles where all those houses are and where this is, and we used to hunt there and we used to do this there, and now it's all developed, and it's I swear if Bozeman had a lake, like a Flathead Lake or something, it would be a world-class year-round destination resort.
Well, back in the day, you just went and saw the polar bear at the mall.
Yep.
If you go straight south out of Bozeman, can you get to the Yellowstone?
Yeah, it's not quite straight south, but yeah, you got to go west just a little bit, and then it's straight south past Big Sky, and then you end up in
West Yellowstone.
I was trying to remember when we came, my wife and I went to Yellowstone, and then we went up to Glacier National Park. Would we have gone through Bozeman?
You probably went through
It's
Livingston.
up by Canada.
Yeah, you probably went through Livingston.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you went straight north and then went on, that would be my guess.
You would have gone through Bozeman to get to Missoula to head north to Flathead or to Glacier.
You might have even gone through a town called Ronan. I wonder if Ed knows where that is.
Is your mom still out there, Ed?
Yes, she is.
Is she on the farm?
Yes, she is. We actually just had a meeting with lawyers, our family, and set up not a trust, but attorney, whatever, with my brother and sister, because she's tired of dealing with land leasing and stuff like that. But she's 88. She's on the farm. She is going to get her second shot February 15th. And somewhere like 10 days after that, I'm going to go out for a week because I'm working from home anyway. So I'm just going to go out and hang out with her. I think she's kind of lonely with this pandemic stuff.
She's quite a woman. I tell you, you got two strong. Well, your wife is pretty strong, but your mother-in-law and your mom, two women that have really done a lot in life. You know, really strong women, right?
Yeah, Ruth said to say hi. I think she was talking to Carol one time and she asked what I was doing. I was down on this thing with Coach Young, so she said to say hi.
I'll tell her hi from me too, will you? And I don't remember a lot about your mom, but I do remember meeting her many, many, many years ago. And I admired her because of what she was able to do to keep you refer to it as a ranch?
Yeah, it was a small cattle ranch. She raised 6 kids on it.
Oh, gosh. You could make a movie out of that, couldn't you?
I don't know. I've been talking to my brother about buying the place here in a few years. Just build a little house and set it up for pheasant hunting. Just for
Good idea.
because it's got good duck hunting and good goose hunting.
They were interviewing, I think his name was Fisher for the job, the Montana State job. he's a pro coach, isn't he? That might get the head job at Bozeman.
Oh,
You
is
know?
that the Fisher
Jeff
from
Fisher?
Nashville?
I think so. They were interviewing him
Titans?
back here the other day, and I finally figured out who he was talking to because I didn't get on at the beginning, but they were talking about can a pro football coach come down to a college level and coach, and about recruiting and so forth. And he was talking about getting that job. I know that. So it's, where was he at? Where he got
Was
let
he
go
at
from?
Tennessee?
Yeah, he was at Tennessee Titans.
Okay. But he's got a place out there in Montana, evidently. He said he loves the, he's got a whole bunch of, I think, labs, dogs. And I don't know how many he has, but must have a pretty nice place out there. I didn't ever hear where his place is, but he was talking, they were interviewing him about maybe getting the job at Montana State.
I think he has a place in Manhattan.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know. I'm kidding.
What's the history behind Manhattan anyway?
Got a steakhouse.
A very Dutch community, heavy in dairy farming, good steaks at the Land of Magic. I don't know, Jeff, what else?
It's where they filmed one of the commercials, What's for Dinner, or Beef, it's What's for Dinner. Yeah. Land of Magic was actually in Logan, which is not really a town. The Oasis was in Manhattan. It's nicknamed the Little Apple. Yeah, just a kind of a rural farming. You know, the one other thing that Manhattan is known for, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Big Sky Carvers, all those bears that were carved out of wood that you can buy in all these home decor shops. That is based out of Manhattan, Montana.
I always, is there some sort of a commune, or what do you call it? Something around Manhattan out there where there was I don't know. There was something when I'd recruit out there, Jimmy Miller and I would come up there in Montana, and for some reason there was something about Manhattan that just, and I don't know what it was, but it's kind of like there was some sort of a, what do you call those? Maybe when you say it's a Dutch community or what?
My guess is what you're thinking of. And so outside of Manhattan was a little community called either Churchill or Amsterdam, two tiny little towns that were kind of connected. They didn't even have a post office, but they were Dutch communities. The story was when the Dutchmen came over on the boat, they put a church on top of the hill and farmed everything around it. And then they eventually expanded and built a second church and built a Christian school, and people from outside of that area called it the colony.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Everybody thought it was always neat and clean, and there was never a blade of grass out of place, and that's what I call home.
Were you ever by there?
Yep, I grew up just outside of there.
Oh, okay.
You know, like any good Christian high school, our favorite rival was Manhattan Public. And back in the 80s, you'd play a basketball game and then everybody went outside and then there was a big fight.
That was probably one of the smallest towns in Montana that had two high schools.
Is that right? Christian high school, a Christian high school and a public, right?
High school. Yeah, because wasn't Manhattan High, weren't they both 1As, or were they even Bs?
No, actually, well, at one point in time after I left there, they were both B, but when I was there, Manhattan Christian was C, the smallest, and Manhattan was B. They actually, when I was there, that's when they started kind of working together. If I was at Manhattan Christian, I could go play football in Manhattan. So the smaller classes could go play at the higher level. And the trade-off was they said, well, Manhattan kids can go run cross country at Manhattan Christian. That lasted 1 year and we won the state tournament or state meet. And they said, no, you can't have a bigger school come down and run with a smaller school, even though the Manhattan kids weren't even in our top 7. But still today, Manhattan Christian kids will go play football at Manhattan, and it's a pretty good co-op that way.
Ed, how far were you away from Lolo, Montana?
Oh, Lolo. Where the heck is Lolo?
Right by Billings.
That's the pass between
Oh,
Washington or Idaho.
It's over by Missoula, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord.
South of Missoula?
south of Missoula. Yeah, Missoula's an hour away from Ronan.
Okay.
Laurel was a Catholic school in Missoula. I remember that. We played basketball against them in a Cracker Box gym.
How far is it to Spokane from Missoula?
Ronan's a 3-hour drive to Spokane. Exactly. It's about
It's, 168 miles from Missoula to Spokane.
Okay. Because that was our dream.
170.
That was our last trip that we were going to take, Diane and I. We were going to go to Montana and visit our best friends there. And then Chuck was still at
Butte,
yeah, at Butte,
Montana Tech.
Montana Tech. And
Yeah.
and then our good friends were just in Lolo. And then Diane's cousin lives in Spokane. And then from there, we were going to go to Portland, but we never got, that's when all heck broke loose. So we never did get that trip made. And
You never made it to Seattle either, Coach.
my bucket list was to see the big, what do you call it, sequoia trees? Are they there? And or what's the big redwoods? Big redwoods?
Eureka,
That's Northern
California.
California.
Yeah, Northern California.
Yeah, that's just south of Oregon a little ways, right?
Yeah, my wife and I, my son played baseball down in Humboldt County 2 summers ago for a team called the Humboldt Crabs. They were the oldest non-professional baseball program in the country. And he played summer ball there 2 summers ago, and we went down for 10 days, and we went down to the Redwood Forest, and that is pretty spectacular. Those trees are not small.
That's still on my bucket list.
Yeah,
Oh, let's
Coach,
go, Coach.
small town. South of
You and I can go road trip.
Okay, Jay. We got to
I
find
have
a place.
I have customers about an hour away, so I'll go with you.
Okay. If we wanted to go there, where would we fly into?
Probably Medford or Eugene would be, I mean, Portland would be the closest unless you went somewhere in California. But if you could get a commuter into Medford, that would be about the closest.
Then you'd meet us, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I won't take you skiing again.
Well, you're the guy that got me started, you remember?
I remember that.
I just remember I was on that rope tow.
Yep.
For
that old lady wasn't going to quit, and you weren't going to quit before she did.
And then I went up on the ski lift one time, and I wasn't bad getting on, but when I went to get off, I landed in a pile, and people just kept coming on top of me.
It's kind of like Laverne and Shirley at the factory. They just keep coming.
Then I get up there and I look down, and I'm thinking, now how in the world am I going to get down? There was a tree right in the middle of the course. And I said, you kind of look at one of those places, well, I'm not going to hit it. I'm not going to hit it. Sure enough, I hit it.
I still remember you said, I'm not going to tell Diane about this until afterwards. Because if I tell her before, there's no way she'll let me do it.
Well, I had a good time there. And then I went there thinking I was going to go to the, what's the Red Lodge, is it?
You've got Deer Lodge.
I thought that's a Red Lodge.
Well, Red Lodge is over there. Yeah, Red Lodge. Yes.
We were going to go there. Were you from? I don't remember whether it was with you or who, but then the wind came up and they closed it down for that day we were going to go. then I ended up down at Green River, and Brian Brooks took me over to Salt Lake City area there, and we went over there and skied on a couple places over there a couple years in a row, but that was fun.
Remember all those elk we saw?
Oh my gosh, what is there, 12,000 there, or 10 to
There
12,000?
was, when we got home that night, I think the news said there was like 10 or 12,000 head on the valley floor, and you and me and Jimmy were sitting in the car, and remember that pop can exploded?
Yeah. Were you with us?
Yeah, yeah.
Really? We didn't know if somebody was shooting at us.
Yep.
Oh dear.
I've never seen a bigger smile on your face than that day you got done skiing, though.
Yeah, that was rewarding. I appreciate you getting me started, because that was always something I wanted to do. And when we came back from Arizona, we lived out of Wall Lake, and Gordon Stewart had his boat out there. So I learned to water ski out there. And then I came out to your place, and you were working the Jackson Hole, right? The ski, and you got me started out there on snow skiing, and I really enjoyed it. The only thing was I could turn one way, but I couldn't turn the other way. So I always had to fall down when I'd start going. I can't remember
Well,
which
the one thing I remember was you didn't stretch beforehand.
Didn't what?
You didn't stretch beforehand, which
Oh, okay.
breaking anything.
Well, I did check my life insurance policy before I came out there, though. I had accident insurance. Oh dear. How's the Oswald family these days?
Everybody's doing really good, I think. Yeah.
Anybody come down to Florida to visit you?
Not yet. You know, we're kind of all just kind of making our way through this pandemic here, I think.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Are you married, Oswald?
Yes, sir. It's crazy, isn't it?
How many years? You got kids?
Yeah. Married. It'll be 20 years now in next October, and I've got 3 kids. I've got a 15, a 13, and a 5.
Oh wow.
Yes, sir.
What year were you at USF?
I was there 94 through 96.
Oh, that's right. So
Yeah.
you were there in a good time, huh?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I had a lot of good players around me. It was fun to be
No,
able to
you're
ride.
the best one of all of them.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah. That DeBoer guy was a little bit better receiver than I was. So.
Yeah, they're slower than both of them were so fast.
Right.
Curtis and Taylor.
You got in there when Yurkovich got hurt, didn't you? Didn't you play behind Yurkovich too?
Yeah, I played behind Yurkovich. Yeah, yep. Got in there a little bit in the championship game. I had a lot of fun. Harrington, Yurkovich. I don't know. Is Yurkovich around? I haven't heard or seen that guy ever.
He's up in Aberdeen.
Is he?
Yurkovich is?
Okay.
Huh? Yurkovich. He still works for, I think, Coke.
Does he still? Wow, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of run into some of these people that you haven't seen for so long.
Yeah. Coach Sim, I think the last time I saw you was out at Falls Landing. Well, that was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, I know. I haven't seen so many people.
Yeah.
Now I just hang out with Coach Young. We're just getting old.
That's right. We're reconnected. Let's say put it that way. That Jay Sim, he did so much for our program that we would have never won the national championship if it hadn't been for him. And if we'd have had, if you'd had Jay Sim as a offensive coordinator, Ed Kester, you'd have thrown for many more yards without having to run for your life.
Absolutely.
You'd have had to know what hot receivers were all about.
Yeah, and you ate them up.
We did like to see you run, though. That 6'4" body sprinting out around the end was pretty good.
Hey, Ed, what was that tight end throwback off 69 boot pass, right? Or is that Perringer?
Yeah, we did a tailback throwback, not a tight end throwback. It was to Perringer.
No, then Terry tight end was out there though. That's off the boot because you guys ran so many boot out of the eye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you pull the guard like you're actually doing a boot, then a back and a tight end went out.
Yeah.
Probably the better one though was that throwback to Perringer though. Remember that? That was
that's what we're talking about.
Down at the dome. I know. I remember the one down at the dome, and he was about 5 yards downfield when we completed it, and our left tackle, what's his name?
Sproles.
Sproles, yeah, was out in front of him, and I think he scored on it, I believe.
All I remember about that game was like it was 0-0 at halftime, and I had 102-degree temperature.
Oh boy.
And I remember we ran that play, and that kind of broke open the second half.
Is that at the dome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got 102-degree temperature. You don't want to play football in a dome.
Hey, Coach, can you draw that play right now or not?
Sure, I sure could.
I think so.
I remember that game. I had a bruise on my thigh because I think a week or two before we had played Tech, I think, out in Black Hills maybe. And I had a bruise on my thigh about the size of a large pizza. And I was in the training room at the Dakota Dome icing. And one of the trainers from there came in and they're looking at it, and it was black. And this bruise, and they're like, "Man, that's a good thing you're not playing today." I'm like, "No, this is so I can play. I'm trying to ice and get ready so I can play." And that was probably one of my best games. And I just remember wearing tennis shoes in the dome, thinking, "Man, I can run so fast in here." And then it didn't dawn on me that everyone else would run faster as well. But that was one of my favorite games, was playing in the dome my senior year.
Hey, Bobby, you're lucky that people didn't pick us up because, every time we're on the boundaries, we send you every time on a blitz.
And Jimmy was so fun to play for.
We just luckily they never attacked us boundaries back then. You know what I mean? So you don't care. We can give up that zone and we bring you. And back then the protection was so terrible. You're almost always free. Remember that?
I just remember we would run Bandit, and Bandit was so fun to run.
Yeah, and I tell you what, when I became offensive coordinator, I hit the crap out of the ball to the boundaries. When Oswald and those guys, Curtis, and they were playing, we hit out to the short side. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. No.
That must have been a horrible game, because before that game, I was screwing around, believe it or not, and we were kicking field goals, and I used to kick field goals barefoot, and I kicked a 50-yard field goal.
Jeff, you thought you could be a quarterback too after practice. You'd be catching, you'd be kicking, you'd be out there dinking around.
Yeah, dinking around. That's what you used to call me, dinking around.
Yeah.
But I moved it back.
I can get the field goal. I can do the deal. I can be a quarterback.
I'll do it.
He's got a big boiler hanging out, try to throw a football. That's a funny one.
And I kicked I hit a 55-yarder, and I got turf toe before the game. And the next day, my toe was 2 times the size. But
see, you should have listened to me.
You should have had Chuka's shoe on, Jeff. You should have had Chuka's shoe on.
I should have had the square Chuka shoe.
Didn't Chuka get an extra point in that game or something?
Yeah. Think so.
Remember every time we'd score a touchdown and Beeves would just take his shoe off and throw it?
Yep.
And they'd throw a shoe onto the field so he could kick the extra point. Every time we scored a touchdown, you'd see Beeves just chucking his shoe toward the sideline.
Well, the funny part would be if it was after he scored, when he
I don't think that ever happened.
I think no, because the one game in the dome, he ran out of steam trying to.
He sneaked out of that fullback flat off that 69.
He scored twice at Drake, Ed, but you were gone by the time he scored.
That's
Yeah,
because
those are a lot
Bruce
of
didn't
fun
know any
memories.
better not to throw to him.
This is the first touchdown I was ever playing in. Beeves scored a touchdown in Drake.
Kester remembers his Drake experience, right? Your blindside block from Vic. Was it Altman's that kind of
Yep.
didn't quite get the job done on that left side there?
Yep. That one hurt. That led to a shoulder replacement.
You know, Ed, the one
Sure.
picture I remember was, do you remember the Huron game?
Yeah.
Remember that picture where you're just getting draped by that guy?
Well, no, it was that they had a nose tackle that was like 4'11".
No, we
And-
did. We did.
No, I know we did. I know we did. They had another one. And the Huron paper on their main sports page, the guy came in untouched one time, and I'm 6'4", and this guy came running at me, and I just ducked, and he jumped over me.
Didn't you?
And the paper was him jumping over me.
Was that a completion though for a touchdown?
I don't remember.
I know you completed the pass. I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm sure if it was me, it was a touchdown, Bob.
That's what I was going to say. They were all touchdowns.
That was probably one of the most satisfying wins, was that Huron game.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good win. We had a few good wins over here, and in '88, that was toward the end of the season, wasn't it? I think
that was the game to get us to 9-0.
Yeah,
I think it was, or 8-0. I can't remember.
Well, they had a bunch of good athletes when they were playing. When you guys were playing, here on
They had a lot of JC transfers, I think, or whatever. Their coach was that ex-Marine guy, and they were not fun.
They had a bunch of 27-year-old convicts that my freshman year, I got beat the tar out of. I hated that game. So it was nice revenge in '88, but
what was that big defensive end that they had that was so dominant?
Ralph Newton.
Yeah.
Ralph Newton, was it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the little guy in the middle.
Joe Wu.
No,
I didn't play for Huron there, boys.
I said Joe, not Jay.
Oh.
I remember my freshman year playing basketball at Huron, and their basketball team was the best, and they were killing us. And I was sitting on the end of the bench, and some football player for Huron came in front of our bench and was taunting us for sitting on the bench. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, or I didn't have the guts to tell him that we kicked their butt that year in football. He was a big linebacker looking dude.
they did have some impressive looking dudes, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Kind of reminds me of playing Lamar's Westmar when we that was in '96 when we played them down there. And boy, you talk about an impressive looking dudes down there.
Yeah, they were tough. Yeah.
We didn't.
Probably
we
the
had
toughest game we ever played.
That was the game that probably was the toughest game of the season.
Well, remember the bus, the window broke.
Oh yeah.
What was that? How did that happen? I don't remember I remember the window breaking, but what happened?
Well, I was sitting right up there by the driver, and that all of a sudden that big windshield kind of popped and came in out of the frame. And the wind was blowing so hard from the south that anytime he would take off and go somewhere, they told him just to drive slower. And so he started out, and boy, that thing popped again and came in a little bit further, and he pulled over, and they said, we can't go now. So he got a different bus. But then I think we had the trailer hooked onto the back of the bus, if I remember right. And the new bus didn't have a hitch on it. And so I think Jim Denovan was my assistant coach, and he was pretty good at mechanical things. And so he wired up that trailer and hooked it onto the back of the van, I think it was. But we got down there about, the game was supposed to be at 7:30 maybe, and I think we got there right at about 7:10 or something.
They say you have to be right at 7:30. It was a bad week.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole situation. Then we'd walk forever from school, but yeah. Then I think that's when Curtis got in fight with what's his name too that week.
He and Dumpke got into it that week.
Yeah, that Thursday, and oh my goodness.
I was thinking we were going to have to do something.
But that quarterback was a stud though for
he
Westmar.
He was.
And they had really good running back. Their defense is like top notch in the country. Yeah. So.
Do you remember their final play? The ball hit their receiver or hit their defensive back, and it went up in the air really high. And Sid was down by where the pass was about completed, and that ball seemed like it hung in the air forever. I think Sid ended up laying on the ground because it just about took his heart away, because he didn't know if they were going to catch it, and that would have won the game for him. And I think it was the last play that they had then, I believe.
Yeah, it was like 8-6 or something, wasn't it? 8-7.
No, it ended up we scored twice in the fourth quarter. Westbrook, remember, he had that 100-yard game running the middle trap, and
34-36. Gee, yeah. Oh no, trap. Yeah.
Yeah, the middle trap, and then we also ran the G off tackle with him. And,
yeah.
Because their ends were coming up so fast, and they were getting into. They were getting into not Kester. Kester wasn't playing at that. Curtis. And so we just started running they never did make an adjustment, and
no,
they were so intent on the pass rush that it was pretty easy to trap them. So we'd run the off tackle, and then we'd run the middle trap, and
we just ran the ball whole time second half.
So we had to score 2 times in the fourth quarter to win the game. I know, and so it was like 21-14 or something like that, I believe.
You got good memory, Coach. What are you talking about?
Well, you remember those games that you almost have a heart attack, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That we won't bring up some of the other games. I just remember the national championship game. Some of those plays that just seemed like they went forever, the throwback screens and the formations. Remember all the formations we had in at that time? And
we had ran so many formations they couldn't even defend it.
Getting Reuter down the throwback screen, and then that one after they fumbled, and we had that I think it was Reuter kind of came out the weak side there to the right and
throwback.
Well, it wasn't a throwback, it was just we put Reuter, we blocked it, so their linebacker was coming, and Reuter took off and went behind him, and that linebacker all of a sudden saw Reuter coming out of there and tried to recover, but no way. And Curtis just dropped the ball right over his head for a touchdown. So,
lot of years, Coach.
Well, that is for sure.
Coach, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So non-playoff, what's your most memorable game?
On the non-playoffs?
Of a non-playoff game, what's your most memorable game that you remember coaching?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, those Huron games kind of had to be right at the top of several of them. I know that. Probably the game down in Oklahoma when we went down there to play Northwest Oklahoma. The year before, they had beaten us real bad. And then I think they won the national championship that year. And we went down there we had just gotten upset by Concordia on a muddy day, and we had to go down to Northwest Oklahoma to play, and they had that receiver that was playing for the Cowboys afterwards. And, we ended up, I don't know, that game there, it just turned our season around. And I think, was that Was that 2002? I can't remember what year it was, 2001 or 2002, wasn't it? I think. But you remember that, Jay?
I don't know. I really don't.
But everything went that day, and that really turned our season around too. I would have to say that one was one of the real, because they had beaten us so bad the year before. They had a tremendous team, and then they had this one guy that was a tremendous kick return guy, and we told Hockett not to kick to him, and he did pretty good job all day, but finally he accidentally kicked to him one time, and sure enough, it went all the way back for a touchdown.
I think I remember when we played. I don't know if you remember this. Jamestown, they had that stud went to pro on defensive end. We tried double team him, and Dave Reuter said that guy's not a regular man. He's a he-man. He's just killing us, coach. And we're down 28-7 at half, coach. To Jamestown, they're really good. And we just spread the whole offense and came, and we ended up beating them like 35-28.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they had some studs there too.
Was that a playoff game or not?
Yeah, that'll be Dax Michelina's senior year.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was that's the one game I'll never forget, because I remember locker room, everybody saying, like, looking at it like, so like, you know, and as a coach, what do you say? You're down by 21 points. This is like, holy cow. And we couldn't run. Dave Reuter couldn't do anything. They're just killing us. They're just so much better. Then we went 3-2, and we're just throwing left and right, you know, and let the Axe run with it.
A follow-up question. Do you remember your first win as a collegiate coach?
I remember the first game that I thought I was so smart coming out of high school, where I'd had a really good record down there at Maryville High School in Phoenix, and I went up to Bemidji, and the things in college didn't go like so well. I can't remember who we played after that, though. It might have been Concordia, Minnesota, possibly. I don't remember for sure. But
weren't you like 8-2 your first year?
no, I think the first year we had a winning season, but I think we were like 6-4 maybe.
Okay.
The second year.
Then the next year was in 84. No, it was 83. 84 was the year we could have almost gone to the playoffs.
We finished ranked 9th when that was last year. They took 8 teams to the playoffs.
Yeah. That was didn't we lose to Montana or South Dakota Tech out there? No, that cost us the playoffs then.
So you don't remember your first college win?
I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I can't remember who we played that first year. I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember that.
Blue, that was your freshman year, right?
Yeah. Me and Bob came together and we became studs. You know?
I thought you were played one year before I came, though, Jay, didn't you?
No.
You didn't Schroeder, didn't Trader, didn't he recruit you, though?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
What a combination. I had Russ Stewart and Jay Sim in there, man. What a combination of studs in the middle.
And then
that was a funny combination.
Yes, it was.
I'd never seen so much holding as Augie did on Jay that year.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
Well,
we still talk about that with all the Augie guys, like Brownie and all those guys, that we play. Victor and I'd run into him once a year.
I just remember watching that film again. I can't remember when the last time I saw it, but man, I thought, gee whiz, how could those officials let all of that go in there? They couldn't stop. They couldn't stop you anyway.
No, it was the packed house too. Remember that, Coach?
Yeah, we had a big crowd there, about 8,000 or 8,500.
Yeah, it was really big. It's huge. That's probably one of the biggest games the Howard would ever have. It was big.
Ooh, that was your sophomore year, right?
Huh?
That was your sophomore year.
84.
Yeah.
I played him twice.
I remember that was I still remember, you remember Jeff Jackson and Messman.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I remember Messman was our middle linebacker.
Jeff Jackson was outside.
Sam that year. And Jackson was the will linebacker.
And Butch Carter.
We go out there and we line up. They're ready to go on offense. And I look to my left and I see Messman. And I look to my right and I see Jackson. I'm like, I'm not the Mike linebacker. And Jeff Jackson was lined up on the wrong side of the ball. He was a crazy guy. But I also remember, you remember this, Coach Young, when Messman hit that guy so hard he broke his face mask and had to go in and get stitches in his eye.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
He hit a guy to where Messman did, to where he broke his own face mask. And I go to help him up and I look down and he's bleeding from the eye. And his face mask broke and went in and cut him to where he had to go in and get stitches. And he came out and finished the game.
Was that Augie?
Yeah, that was our first game, my freshman year, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, they were pretty loaded on their receivers and quarterback and so on, and they had I think they came close to winning the North Central that year, I believe.
Yeah, they had a good year.
They had a tight end that was being drafted, I think.
No, they had that Brownie, the wide receiver.
Was he a wide receiver? I didn't know if he was a wide receiver or a tight end.
Yeah, he's really good, and he's an athletic director at Gustavus. But yeah, he played for that New York Giants. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't they have a guy by the name of Schwartz that played in the pros for a while?
Yeah, I played linebacker.
Oh yeah, I coached him at Augie. Brian Schwartz.
Oh, that wasn't while you were playing then, was it?
No, that was when I was coaching it. When I went to Augie.
Okay.
Like 90 through 93.
Yeah.
That's 3 years. Yeah. So. Well, this is always fun talking, guys. It's almost 10 o'clock. Oh,
I know. We better call it off here. I got a dialysis tomorrow, so.
All right. Well, it's nice to see you guys all, and I hope stay healthy and kids are doing well, and
look forward
stay
to
healthy,
getting
boys. It's fun to see them all.
Looking forward to seeing you on the 16th there, Jay. Okay.
Okay, Coach. Yep.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Good night, all of you.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good to talk with you.
Good to see everybody.
Good night, you guys.